Hi, this is Jody back from Jody's Gems Quilting here in southeastern Pennsylvania. Today I'm going to share just a few more tips that I've discovered over the last 3 years as I have been using my frame system. I did take a break off and on, but I've been licking them out like crazy the last couple weeks. And the best part is that I found these tips and I just thought, I haven't shared these in a long time or ever. So I thought I would bring them to you today. One of the things that I have discovered that helps tremendously is to, let me see, go back here. I've recorded this so many times and then re-recorded it. When I get done with a quilt, I try to clean the machine, get it all cleaned up, clean out the lint everywhere, change the needle. And I have found that I have to put a real fancy note in there so I remember, cleaned with new needle. And so I know the next time I go to do any quilting, it's ready to go. The other thing too that I didn't share before is I have a desk chair that I roll, a roll chair that I can roll all the way back and forth as I'm quilting, and makes it a whole lot easier. I also found that I needed more light. The older I get, I don't know what it is, but it's just not enough lighting in here. So I bought a lot of under cabinet lights for my sewing room, for my kitchen, and so I have twisty tied them to the frame, and it makes it a whole lot better to turn them on and off. I still use my Mighty Bright light, which I do use and I do like. I do not use the original lamp that came with the machine. This has just worked so much better for me. And I'm still using these pins, which I love those too, because the foot just doesn't get caught on them. You have to stop and take them out, but it's not a big deal. The other thing too is I don't pin anymore to the frame system. I was very jealous of all the long armors that get a zipper system, and I was like, I'm going to see if I can figure out how to do that. I don't want to spend a lot of money on it because I don't even know if this is going to work. So what I did was I took the leaders that were on the machine, I added a sleeping bag zipper that I bought up at Wooden Bridge Dry Goods in Kutztown. I teach up there, and I thought, they have sleeping bag zippers, which I believe are about 108 inches long. It'll work on a short arm. It works great. But I got 3 zippers, and I put one on each of the leaders with the Velcro, and so I can adjust them as needed on the frame system by just ripping off the Velcro and reattaching it where it needs to be. I also left a foot at this left end of the frame system, so that I can come out here and I can change the bobbin, I can fix a thread break or whatever I need to do on here. Speaking of thread breaks, I was having a lot of problems with signature thread the last couple of years and I think honestly it has to do with age of the thread. This is Marathon thread, so I thought I'd give it a try. The guy from Marathon, it's out of Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. They go to quilt shows, and I did buy that, and it seems to work better. I do think this is cotton, if I recall. I just recently, and as you can see, I took my serger cone holder to do these big threads because you can't do a big spool on there any other way. And I do believe recently, what did I just buy? The other day I bought a new thread because I wanted something that looked like gold. I'm finding I like gold, and I also find that I need, this is a PermaCore, and it's a poly wrap, and so I'm going to try that again and see if I have some better luck with it. Anyway, when you go to stitch this out, and because we are so limited on size on here, and last time I was using a painter's tape, I believe, or like a masking tape on here to mark the distance I had for quilting. What I've discovered is when you have your thread down, needle down, and you're rolling it, you go to the next section. I don't break my threads unless I have to or they break. So my goal is to get the whole quilt done with one thread continuous and not stop and start. So when I roll it, wherever the needle is down, I come over here and I use my small 6-inch ruler and I measure the bed that I have left from the edge of the machine underneath the arm to the rod. Then I bring that out here and I measure it from the needle out, and it's usually 5.5 inches, 5 1/4, and then I lay down the batting strip. I use a batting strip now instead because it's easy. I can reuse it. Oops. Can reuse it over and over and over. I just lay it down, smooth it out all the way down, and it makes a whole lot easier to have a stopping point. And it tells me how far I can go to quilt. That's my swath that I get on a short arm. Aren't you thrilled with that one? And the other thing that I discovered is you also have to keep, it really helps to have at least 5 inches of backing and batting bigger so that you have some space. By doing this and using the clamps, the machine won't run into it as you sew out here. That's, you know, you've got plenty of room. Now on the other end, what I discovered, because the way the machine sits on the frame, you know, on the design of it, it's a little bit bigger in the front side. Your bed is usually. So what I did was, what I have found is when I clamp this, and typically this batting right here in the backing would be the same size as with the leaders on, so about 5 inches or so. This is going to be a challenge for me today. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do it, to put this on. But to give you an idea, if they were the same size, which they should be, what I have found is I use my trusty yardstick and I stick it underneath the clamp over the top of the rails, and it lifts this just enough that when you quilt to the edge out here and you're quilting along here, this will be lifted up because normally it's right here. This is pretty unusual. I just squared that up last night but didn't even think about making it to size. It was like, oh, I thought I had the right size. Obviously not. So anyway, between the sleeping bag zippers, stitching those on, stitching one on a leader, so my red leader is always has the sleeping bag zipper on it, and I mark it. Like here I mark it in foot in, and then I put on here backing, wrong side up, last on. So this is the top of the quilt typically, or the side, and it's the last one I put on the frame. So this one's adjustable. I make sure that it hangs right. It hangs right when you're underneath, so that it's just like when you check it to make sure it's square when you're going to trim it up. This one is marked here, and it's where you start the backing, and I have on there, mark it, you know, backing, wrong side up, first on. So this is the first one that goes on the frame system. Then on the quilt top itself, I have leaders on each side, and I have 40, 60, can't do 80 inches on here. I have 40 and 60 inch lengths, and so normally this would go up and beyond the top, but it's so close I decided just to try it this time, not worry about it. If it's longer than needed, I flip it over and just bring it out to the side. On the bottom of this quilt top, at the very last edge of it, I also have the leader attached with the zipper. So when you go to put it on the frame system, there's no more pinning. It is so nice. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but Wooden Bridge Dry Goods in Kutztown, I've recorded this like 5 times this morning, can't remember what I said. This is where I get the sleeping bag zippers, and you just attach one on the leader that goes on the frame system with a Velcro, and one on a leader that gets stitched on by a basting stitch. So I just use really disposable thread, whatever thread I don't want anymore, it's not staying on there, and I do a long basting stitch on here. And that way I can just zip it on. I start with zipping this one on, rolling up the backing and making sure it's even, so you smooth it out just like you normally would. Then I attach the top, the quilt top, and I zip it on, and then I roll it up to make sure everything's in good position, good shape, and I make sure that I try to clean up the backing, like make sure there's no loose threads on the back of the white, because it will show through with varicose veins. We call those varicose veins on the quilt top. So you want to avoid any of those that you can. So you clean it up really good as you roll it and make sure. And then the last thing I put on is this front end. And that one gets zipped on, and then I pull off the Velcro. I lay it so that it looks even underneath, and it has worked beautifully. My quilts turn out square every time. And what you're going to do, let me get this, it's driving me crazy. There. What you're going to do is you're going to make sure it's smooth, and then you're going to add the batting in there, and you just tuck it underneath, get it even across the top, and then you're ready to start sandwiching it. And what I do is I take my ruler, and this is a lot, just your eyes, and you're going to, I've used my 24-inch ruler because I need that length to make sure that I'm even. And I lay the batting up, make sure I've got enough at the top, as you can see. Then I take the quilt top, and that's what I'm measuring to make sure that I'm square, that I'm on there even. I've got that top edge even all the way down. When I get that in position, then I pin it, and I pin every so often all the way along here. Go back and check it again just to make sure. And believe it or not, this was actually 2.5 inches from the edge when I pinned it on. And when I tightened everything up, just tightened up all the rollers, then it became, what, almost 3 inches? Yeah, 3 inches. So a lot of it has to do with where your eye is, but you'll get in a rhythm that you just look straight down at it, same position, keep your eye in the same position so that it's even all the way down. Once I get this done, I've got my machine threaded. I bring it over, okay, and I drop my needle down right here. If I had somebody holding this for me, I could do this, but I don't have a video assistant. So this is it. So you're going to drop your thread down, your needle down, bring up your bottom thread so it's at the top, hang on to them, secure that stitch, and then I turn my machine down. I've got a little dial here for speed control, and I turn it down to 5 or so, 4 or 5, and then I do a running stitch, what I would call a running stitch all along that edge. And it's a basting stitch. It's not huge, but it's like a basting stitch. And you're going to run that all across there, and as I go, I take the pins out. So no, I can't run over the pins. I don't go around them. You want to do this within a 1/4 inch. You don't want to come out into the quilt itself, but you want to keep that, because that stays in there. That's in where the binding is, and you don't have to take it out. But you're going to stitch completely all the way to the end of your quilt edge. Pins are out, then you're ready to roll it up. So I roll it up so that it's within probably 1.5 inches or so, 2 inches of the bar. You want to make sure that your needle, which I talked about in a previous video, that the little screw, this is not working. I can't get down there. I could turn it upside down. Or I've got it on a tripod. There we go. Take the tripod off. What you're going to find is this little bar right here, the little screw for the needle, is going to hit the bar, and that will break your needle every time. Plus it can do damage to the machine, so be careful with that. That was my hardest thing to not do, was to hit this, especially when it's just metal. When there's more padding there, it's a different story. A lot of times I'll run my fingers back behind it just to make sure that I don't hit that bar. I'd rather hit my fingers than the bar because my fingers are movable. But that will help you. So stitch all the way down, roll this up tighter, and then go to your quilting, stippling, meandering, whatever you're going to do. The other thing that I do is when I'm going, like this is set up, ready to go. Normally I would stitch across here, and then if I cannot start quilting, at least it's ready for another day, I will loosen this bar, this third bar right here. I will loosen this bar, the tension on it, even though everything else is perfect. Release the tension on here, release the tension on here until you're ready to sew another day. I hope and pray that these tips will help you and that I haven't forgotten anything else. The only other thing I can think of is on this, the bar for the We have a bar for the batting, and I do not attach it anymore. I don't even know, there's no Velcro or anything on it. I didn't do that, but I do tuck it down underneath, and then I just start hand rolling it. And because it's slippery, it just rolls and rolls, and I keep it as, don't worry about how even it is, but it will release off. Oh, I know what else I was going to show you. I knew there was one more thing. Once I'm done measuring this, I'm done with this ruler. So this ruler gets put away in another home. But when I go to release it and go to the next, let me release this to show you. You want to smooth and keep your batting all smoothed out. I run this through, and this was a tip when I was renting the long arms. You can run the ruler through underneath the quilt on both sides, then come in here and smooth it out from the top. And a yardstick works really, really well to keep that smoothed. Then you're ready to go continue on with your quilting. I think that will be all of the best tips I've got for you. Having a desk chair, which I did have arms on it, and I removed the arms because I didn't need them. So I hope these tips work for you, and they make your short arm quilting all the better. I hope you have a great day. God's blessings to you. Bye.